Alright, we're in the next video now, and we're starting off of the mystical sacrifice of the Phoenicians. So, it was the custom among the ancients in times of great calamity, in order to prevent the ruin of all, for the rulers of the city or nation to sacrifice the avenging deities, the most beloved of their children, as price of redemption. They who were devoted for this purpose were offered mystically, for Cronus, whom the Phoenicians call Il, and who after his death was deified. Okay, so L is Cronus. I'm just putting tabs on that, and who after his death was deified and instated in the planet which bears his name, when king. And instated in the planet which bears his name. Which planet is that? Let me look at. Is that? Which planet is Cronus associated with? Oh, Saturn. Yeah, that's right. I think I remember. Okay. Yeah, so they named after the planet. When king had by a nymph of the country called Anobret an only son, who on that account is styled Eod, for so the Phoenicians still call an only son. And when great dangers from war beset the land, he adorned the altar and invested this son with the emblems of royalty and sacrificed him. Okay, so this son sacrifice is like a common thing. I think in the Phoenician lore, I know that they were like sacrificing, I think, like the firstborn son. But I mean, this is saying it's this reason. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of a loose reason to sacrifice. I mean, I feel like they're not explaining it too hard, and it just like, I don't know. They don't give like a reason why it's actually done. It's just in order for like to prevent calamity from people. You just sacrifice the son, but it's like, okay, what are they doing that because this like god creature thing needs like some food? Is that really why? And if they don't get their food, their tributes, like, then they're just gonna take more? Or I don't know. They get punished? I have really no idea. Tacitus first attributed something, or well, let me read this little header of the serpent. Tacitus first attributed something of the divine nature to the serpent and the serpent tribe, in which he was followed by the Phoenicians and Egyptians. For this animal was esteemed by him to be the most inspirited of all the reptiles, and of a fiery nature, inasmuch as it exhibits an incredible celerity, moving by its spirit without either hands or feet or any of these external members, by which other animals affect their motion. And in its progress it assumes a variety of forms, moving in a spiral course, a darting forward with whatever degree of swiftness it pleases. It is moreover long-lived, and has the quality not only of putting off its old age and assuming a second youth, but of receiving at the same time an augmentation of its size and strength. And when it has fulfilled the appointed measure of existence, it consumes itself. And Tacitus has laid down in the sacred books, upon which account this animal is introduced in the sacred rites and mysteries. Okay, so, I mean, yeah, I guess the serpent's pretty symbological, so I guess that's why they use it a lot. Okay. Okay, so we just read Sanchoniathon, which is the cosmogony. So this is Fragments of Chaldaean History from Pherosus and Abedinus and Megasthenes. Interestingly enough. Okay, so this is Berosus and Alexander Polyhistor. No, the cosmogony and deluge. Okay, so now we're at like a second story of like another part of like the fragment of ancient history when like so I see what this book now is doing. It's like taking all the cosmogonies and kind of like putting them side by side, so to speak. Cool. Berosus in the first book of his history of Babylonia informs us that he lived in the age of Alexander the son of Philip, and he mentions that there were written accounts preserved at Babylon with the greatest care, comprehending a period of above 15 myriads of years, and that these writings contain histories of the heaven and of the sea, of the birth of mankind, of the kings, and of the memorable actions which they had achieved. And in the first place, he describes Babylonia as a country situated between the Tigris and the Euphrates, that it abounded with wheat and barley and ochres and sesame, and that in the lakes were produced the roots called gonge, which are fit for food, and in respect to nutriment and similar to barley. Oh, so it's kind of like rice. Maybe it is rice. Just didn't have the word for it. Like I forgot the word is for like a rice, like a pinto or something like that, or like a pellet. No, something like that. I don't remember. That there were also palm trees and apples and a variety of fruits, fish also and birds, both of which are merely to flight, and those which frequent the lakes. He adds that those parts of the country which bordered upon Arabia were without water and barren. Okay, so those parts of the country which bordered. Okay, so even in their time, it was still a desert. Okay, so that's something to kind of know. But that the parts which lay on the other side were both hilly and fertile. Yeah, so like the Zagros Mountains to the east, and then the like kind of Lebanon mountain range in the northwest corridor. Okay. Yeah, this seems kind of consistent. So the place was already a desert by the time these people are recording everything going on. At Babylon there was, in these times, a great resort of people of various nations who inhabited Chaldea, and lived in a lawless manner like the beasts of the field. And that first year there appeared from that part of the Erythraean Sea, which borders upon Babylonia, an animal destitute of reason, by name Oannes, whose whole body, according to the account of Apollodorus, was that of a fish, that under the fish's head he had another head, with feet also below, similar to those of a man, subjoined to the fish's tail. His voice too and language was articulate and human, and a representation of him is preserved even to this day. So yeah, that's that picture of the fish. I can pull it up actually. It's the like fish looking thing. So just pull that bad boy up. I think it's this one, because this one's in my my textbook from 1872. I got like a physical copy of like a book of ancient Assyria and Egypt. And yeah, this is basically what he looks like. I mean, this is what they're talking about. This depiction was found, I guess. It could be this thing called like steganography, where these things are depicting aspects of the actual like being in ways that like are not very direct. So, for instance, he's saying that the man is in a fish costume, right? Or it's this like goofy looking fish costume. Like, what purpose does this serve, wearing a fish costume? It just looks ridiculous, right? So the purpose of it is to give a description of the being without explaining the being directly as it is. So this could be depicting that this person looks like a human, but it has the skin and flesh of a fish, right? So that then they have this beard, and then they have these eyes and nose and stuff, and these are also depictions of the god. Because like I said before, it doesn't, when they start saying like, oh, they have these beards, these great beards and great, muscular structure, and all these adornments, specific like adornments and stuff like that. It was to kind of like mimic the gods. But it's like, okay, under what circumstance is that a depiction of a god? Like, what is it that makes it look like a god? How come a god can't be like a being of light, or uh like I don't know, anything like a fit, like a, maybe not like a fish, but like an octopus. Let's just say like an octopus. How come it's not depicted as like an actual creature? It's this like strange depiction, right? We just got this really strange depiction. And all they like to say is just like, oh yeah, that's how they just want to depict it, but they're depicting it to be like a god, but it's this, it honestly just looks stupid. Like this whole fish costume, to me it just looks stupid for them to just like play it as like, oh yeah, he's just wearing a freaking fish costume. That doesn't make sense. And this book here is saying that he's like of a fish, or he has like properties of a fish, or like he comes out of the water, comes out of a lake, which is something very common with like I guess sightings of like chupacabras and like kind of just strange creatures coming out at night, so to speak. So I mean, this is just one way that they're trying to say that this is how this thing could be depicted. But like I said, it's kind of like what we were just saying earlier about where is it? What were we talking about? There's something we were talking about like oh man, I lost my train of thought on that. It had something to do with like what is it that makes this depiction a god, you know like did like the original gods like have actual beards like this? I just, there's so many questions you can like ask and like try to understand, but you know the best thing to do is just kind of make your own assumptions, and then kind of compare those assumptions with other people. So this is probably like his own interpretation, and then this is like probably like the real, like this thing was actually like part fish, but like we would describe it as a fish for lack of a better word, but it's possible this is just like a type of body that's just like amphibious or something. It just doesn't, it doesn't make any sense what, like I said, why they would depict it as a fish costume. It's just kind of stupid. I think it's kind of stupid. I think for something to look godly, I think the fish costume looks ridiculous, other than the fact that like, they're trying to explain that this person was like some sort of like non-human, but he looked like a human because he was like a humanoid shape. So I think that's what it's trying to explain here. This being was accustomed to pass the day among men, but took no food at that season. He gave them an insight into letters and sciences and arts of every kind. He taught them to construct cities, to found temples, to compile laws, and explain to them the principles of geometrical knowledge. He made them distinguish the seeds of the earth, and shewed them how to collect the fruits. In short, he instructed them in everything which could tend to soften manners and humanize their lives. From that time, nothing material has been added by way of improvement to his instructions. Huh. And that's really interesting. It's like saying he only taught like how to like kind of like survive and build a civilization. He was like really specific on what he taught. It was just like there wasn't weapons that he taught him. It wasn't like building ships. Nothing. It was just how to collect fruits, and then how to build cities and temples and make laws. It's just like infrastructure, kind of like civilization building. Nothing like with like advanced warfare techniques and stuff like that of any sort. Okay, and then so this is talking about the ancient. So I'm assuming this is probably like just after the deluge, or it could be before. I don't know. You know, when they start explaining this stuff, it's not very clear whether this happened before or after, like, the Great Deluge. Maybe. Maybe it'll explain it later. And when the sun had set, this being, Oannes, retired again into the sea and passed the night into the deep. It's funny because, like, you know, they say, like, Enki, like, went into, like, the Absu, you know, which is, like, they say it's, like, the deep, or it's, like, the underwater, or it's, like, South Africa, typically. Which is, like, the southern direction, I guess. And it's, yeah, dude, like, this is a non-human, like, I don't know how to explain this, like, it's clearly indicated that this being in the past was, like, a non-human coming out of the water. And this, like I said, this is something we see today. Like, there's been, like UFO sightings, or, like, weird phenomena or videos of, like, these things either coming out of the water or being near, like, a creek bed or, like, a lake. And then you have, like, the old legends of, like, Mesoamerica, Lake Titicaca, like, the beings coming out of that lake. Like, well, what's going on here, really? You know what I mean? Like, all this stuff's just never, like, investigated whatsoever. None of it's investigated, like, in our academia. And this is, like, this is huge, dude. I mean, literally, what kind of description is this? And it just sounds like, you know, you can easily say he's just an allegory of, like, Poseidon or something. And I think that's just stupid. And it's just like a dumb way of looking at what our ancestors left us. And it's not doing them justice. Because these people left this information here for a reason, not just because they're just being stupid. And they just saw, like, hallucinations. Like, I don't think that's the case. I highly doubt that's the case. So I'm gonna go with the argument that these things are, like, actual non-humans that like to conceal themselves. So, after this, there appeared other animals like Oannes, of which Berosus proposes to give an account when he comes to the history of the kings. Moreover, Oannes wrote concerning the generation of mankind and of their civil polity, and the following is the purport of what he said. Let me drink some coffee real quick. I need to get my ass up. Okay, so this is what Oannes said. This is what a non-human said. This is what a non-human said. There was a time in which there existed nothing but darkness and an abyss of waters, wherein resided most hideous things, or hideous beings, which were produced of a twofold principle. There appeared men, some of whom were furnished with 2 wings, other with 4, and with 2 faces. They had 1 body but 2 heads, the one that of a man, the other of a woman, and likewise in their several organs, both male and female. I'll explain more of this in a second. Other human figures were to be seen with the legs and horns of goats. Some had horses' feet, while others united the hindquarters of a horse with the body of a man, resembling in shape of a hippocentaur's. Bulls likewise were bred there with the heads of men, and dogs with 4-fold bodies, terminated in their extremities with the tails of fishes. Horses also with the heads of dogs, men too, and other animals with the heads of bodies of horses and tails of fishes. In short, there were creatures in which were combined the limbs of every species of animals. In addition to these, fishes, reptiles, serpents, with other monstrous animals, which assumed of each other's shape and countenance, of all which were preserved delineations in the temple of Belus of Babylon. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's why they have, like, the Lamassu figure, and then, like, I don't know, I guess, like, the Sphinx is, like, one. It's like a. Huh. It's like, you know, it's like they made the Sphinx in reverence to Oannes, almost. I don't know, could be, you know, because I'm under the suspicion that the Sphinx was originally like a fully fledged lion, and then some sort of cataclysm happened. The place sunk. The desert kind of sunk over, or kind of like um, buried the pyramids and the Sphinx, and then like the head was sticking out from the Sphinx, so they changed the lion head to a like pharaoh head, but a more contemporary pharaoh, one that's different from like the original like Narmer or the unifier of Egypt. It's more of the more like modern, but in that time modern renditions of the pharaoh's head, which is the whole like bird headdress with the goatee and the little snake coming out of the forehead, like that depiction with like the bird kind of like headdress type of thing going on. This is like what they try to depict in the Oannes, or not the Oannes, the Sphinx. In any case, they still haven't mentioned the pyramids and the Sphinx, and I just want to point that out again. I don't know if we're going to get to that or if this book's going to mention it. If it doesn't mention it, it's really interesting because, like I said, this book came out, I think, in the 1830s, 1872. I think late 1800s when they started unearthing like the pyramids and stuff like that and going in there. But if these people in ancient times are not talking about the pyramids and the splendor that it holds, you know what I mean? Like, it just goes to show you like where people's mentalities are at, and it's like, how can something so massive not be talked about like one fair bit by some of these historians? Which I'm pretty sure they might. I'm pretty sure they knew of the pyramids then, but then again, we also got to be aware that like they might not have. So, in any case, let's continue. Where were we? So, yeah. So that was what I want to say. Okay, so the person who presided over them was a woman named Amoroka, which in the Chaldaean language is Thalath. In Greek, Thalassa, the sea. Okay, so this is like Tiamat, maybe? I don't know. No, just something to put in. But which might equally be interpreted the moon. Okay, so this is a moon goddess. So this happened before. This happened before the shepherd and the sun god. So this is before. This is before any type of sun worship. There was a female moon god worship. Then at a later time came the sun god, and then the moon male god. There's like a distinction that happens. And that moon male god is typically seen as like Suen, or I think Yerra or something like that. It's named after the god that is in Jericho in the Bible. So that's a moon god. You can look that up. The god that's revered at Jericho is a moon male god. You can look that up. 100%. Anyways, let's continue. All things being in this situation, Belus came and cut the woman asunder, and of one half of her he formed the earth, and of the other half the heavens. Okay, so this is, I think, the Enuma Elish story, and it's talking about, I think, Marduk slaying Tiamat, but they called him Belus. So Belus is Marduk, who's also, I guess, Zeus. I don't know. If you want to like start taking parallelisms and stuff like that. And at the same time destroyed the animals within her. All this, he says, was an allegorical description of nature. For the whole universe consisting of moisture and animals being continually generated therein, the deity above mentioned took off his own head, upon which the other gods mixed the blood as it gushed out with the earth, and from whence were formed men. On this account is that they are rational and partake of divine knowledge. This Belus, by whom they signified Jupiter, divided the darkness and separated the heavens from the earth and reduced the universe to order. But the animals, not being able to bear the prevalence of light, died. Belus, upon this, seeing a vast space unoccupied, though by nature fruitful, commanded one of the gods to take off his head, and to mix the blood with the earth, and from whenceforth other men and animals which should be capable of bearing the air. Belus formed also the stars, and the sun, and the moon, and the 5 planets. such according to Polyhistor, is the account which Brosus gives in his first book. Okay. Star, sun, moon, 5 planets. So there's Mercury, Venus, and then there's us, and then Mars, and then Jupiter, and then Saturn. Okay, so it doesn't mention Uranus or Neptune or Pluto. So it's missing those planets. Possibly. That's interesting to note. I wonder if they're just saying 5 planets because that's how they saw how many planets were back then, or if I'm gonna have to look this up because when it says 5 planets, like is it saying 5 planets because in the 1800s this is all they knew, or is it because back then this is all they knew? But even using the word planets, did they really even know of like planets, the word planets back then? So I'm gonna try to get my own translation of this whole like section right here after this, and kind of see what it gives me, because I'm kind of curious as to how they explain planets, because this is like a 1800s word. This is not like an ancient word. This is like something that's used like much later after. But you know, back then, I mean, like for them to have astrology and stuff like that was pretty complex back then. But I mean, they can still do it. Just, I mean, fabricating optics is pretty difficult, and like back then they would have had to do it by hand, and then they would have had to have like You've ever seen those I'm pretty sure everybody has done it. And like ceramics, you have the little potter's wheel, right? So that potter's wheel spins in like a circle. So you would kind of make like lenses that way. You'd like polish lenses that way. You'd get like a crystal, right? And then you'd get like you know, the shape of it, making like that, and then you know that's how you would do it and make the right lens with the right radius and whatnot. So that's how they would make the telescopes back then. I'm pretty sure that's how they were doing it back then. It just, I don't know. It's a pretty advanced technology, and the way we fabricate them now is like all more modern, using like, you know, machines and whatnot. But I'm just I kind of want to take like maybe a second to just kind of maybe look at this real quick. How much more do we got? Maybe I can end it right here. And then, yeah, maybe we'll start right here. And the second book was contained the history of the 10 kings. Yeah, see, that interesting. So let's just do some fact checking real quick with this book. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so wait, I can't translate this yet, huh? Darn. All right, well, I guess I'll do it at the end of the video. Okay, let's see if there's anything we can look up before we leave. Let me just real quick. Okay, so is Brosus's account of what is it? What did he title this? The cosm of the cosmogony. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. The cosmogony and deluge. I keep forgetting to turn my fan off. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to do that in the next video. It's just kind of like, it always like kind of goes over my head to take the fan off, but I gotta remember to do that. Oh shoot, I kind of just didn't even finish that. I didn't even finish the answer, my bad. Okay. The same story as the Enuma. There we go. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. Just kind of got sidetracked with sneezing and also kind of explaining how my fan's on still. I'll show you what it sounds like without it being on. Let me just turn it off. It's a little more quiet. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I will make sure to do that in the next video. Just always turn my fan off. I was on a habit of doing it. I don't know why my habit broke, or I'm just forgetting to turn it off. Okay, so as preserved in fragments by later Greek writers, share significant similarities with the Enuma Elish and other Mesopotamian flood myths, but also contains notable differences. Both accounts, watery chaos. Yeah, Apsu and Tiamat. Berosus also describes in darkness of water, which monster. Yeah, same thing. Central theme in the both is the triumph of a younger, powerful god over a primordial female deity. In Enuma Elish, Marduk defeats Tiamat, splitting her body. Berosus similarly describes Bel slaying a Moroka and using her body to create the cosmos. And the creation of humans. Both accounts feature the humankind and the Enuma Elish are created from the blood of the slain rebellious god. Kingu, or another god in some versions. Berosus states that Bel cut off his own head. The other gods needed his blood with the earth to form humans, imbuing him with understanding. Okay, so still points to a divine origin for humanity via God's blood, whether it's Kingu or himself. I wonder which would have been older. Like if we're to say this is older, I wonder if the Enuma Elish, because they're saying he cut off his own head, but then they don't reference Kingu at all, or some other god. And I wonder why that difference is. The overarching theme is both establishment and order. Great flood narrative. Alright, let's specifics. Yeah, architects and the names and precise genealogies can vary. Yeah, obviously. Often introduces allegorical interpretations of the myths, something not explicitly present in the Enuma Elish. For example, he presents the slaying of a Moroka as an allegory. Okay. Berosus introduces a fishman hybrid. His figure and his teaching role are unique to Berosus' account, not found in the Enuma Elish, because in the Enuma Elish is probably the older text and not something that's passed down maybe orally. So okay, I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want to know. So, let's see here. What reasons can you contra to explain why the Enuma Elish says that another god was used to make man and not the god's Bel himself? Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, so you alleviate the toil of the lesser gods. By creating humans with Kingu's blood, the epic clearly establishes humanity's role as servants for laborers. If Marduk used his own blood, it might imply a more elevated status or more direct, intimate connection with humanity that would contradict their intended function as laborers. The idea was to create beings below the gods, not of the same substance as the supreme deity. Okay, so Berosus kind of using Bel as a way to explain how humanity was created through like the god's blood, or like the divine god's blood. It might establish humans at least, like if we were to look in their time period, like in the really ancient time period, not during Berosus, but way before that, right? So they were writing the Enuma Elish. I think it's just kind of like put the kind of human in a position of like servitude. You know what I mean? Rather than just like having him have like a higher status or more. Yeah, see here, a more elevated status or more direct, intimate connection with humanity. So, I wonder why they got changed or passed down. I'm thinking maybe it got passed down like that. Let's say like Brosu's got like, these histories from like these ancient initiates over there in those lands and stuff like that, right? So they keep saying that like they have the blood of Bel and the blood of, the blood of Marduk Bel, whatever, right? Now they're saying that, but back then they weren't saying that. So it's almost like something new. I don't know. Really interesting. Um, I don't know. I guess maybe the narrative changed after a later time period, and um, I don't know. I mean, they're kind of giving more general reasons for the change. Let me see what other. To prevent sacrilege or diminishment of Marduk, for a supreme deity like Marduk to use his own blood might have been seen as a diminishment of his divine essence, or a form of self-sacrifice that wasn't necessarily appropriate for his exalted status. So I think, excuse me, I think when Berosus is using like Bel to say that like he used his own blood to like give to the humans to make humans and stuff like that, I think that's more of like an empowerment of humanity, something that's kind of like maybe revised at a later, definitely revised at a later time period, to serve as like a purpose for like I don't know, I guess kind of elevating people, right? If you just tell people that like, oh yeah, you're just like the blood of a god slave or a god that was conquered, right? That's like the same as like saying like, oh yeah, humans don't come from gods, they come from monkeys, right? I think it's the exact same thing, and it's like the diminishment of humanity as a being, right? And then um I'm not exactly sure the intent of which saying like other than just like typical human empowerment. um I don't really know why they would say like the god used his own blood, when clearly both like I don't know, I guess in a modern sense we kind of say that we come from monkeys, and then on top of that we have this kind of like lower position of mankind seen in the New English. So I'm just trying to like think like what why they really did change that, to have Marduk give his own blood to make humans. I'm just really curious about that. Where did we leave off at? Yeah, so. Oh, and then I think another thing I wanted to add about the whole like two-headed beasts and whatnot. So if we're to assume back then that things were like not when things were like a deep watery abyss, right? When there was just really nothing, but like when the earth was just getting vegetated and populated with fauna. There would have been like a lot of lush and I guess plentifulness, so much so that beings of different stature, of different variation, of varying variations to be exact, what I mean, like four-headed creatures, creatures with two heads on each side of its body, what I mean, like just crazy renditions of different creatures, right? That would have been very, very prominent in those very ancient times when resources were very plentiful. Now, if you notice, a lot of the earth is like kind of like tarnished, or a lot of it's desert, and resources are. I would agreeably say that resources are a lot more scarce than they would have been in a past time for these creatures to live. So I think that's a good explanation, is like after this flood, whether or not this was like a divine intention or not, um, this would have made resources a lot. The flood would have made resources a lot more dire, and it would have killed off a lot of these creatures that had like survivability problems because of their like very varying nature, so to speak. So um, I have that explained in like these lecture videos that I'm making. I'm still working on them, almost done with them. Trying to get them. I'm trying to make a way for people to kind of like buy the PDF and just kind of keep it as a way of like donating to my channel or my efforts. So I guess just be on the lookout for that. So I'm gonna end the video here, and then we'll start off, like I was saying earlier, we'll start off in whatever page this is, like 100 something, where it says in the second book. So we'll see you guys.